Welcome to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Folks, they say that politics makes strange bedfellows. One minute you're a regular hang on, here we go. 1 minute, you're a regular political commentator for the premier conservative cable news channel, and the next, they pick an unhinged political arsonist over you, and suddenly you're now doing guest appearances on the fake news liberal media, CNN. My guest today may have been down and but she's certainly not out, as she's no shrinking violet and has gone to battle with quite a few people in real life and on the internet, and she's even had her own battle with cancer. She's been on both sides of the political fence, and she's been branded a never Trumper, and now she fights alongside us liberal Dems to help undo the damage caused by Trumpism. Please join me in welcoming my next guest, the founder and executive producer of America Reads the Mueller Report and political strategist, Cheri Jacobus.
Hi.
Cheri, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Dad. Good to be here.
Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate your time.
I'm glad to be here.
So first things first, you have been very, very much an open book on Twitter and the Twitterscape, and for some people that's not a good thing, but for you it's a strength. You've kind of been fearless in your journey, and I learned a year ago that you were dealing with a battle with cancer. First of all, how are you?
Doing good. My scans are clear. Anybody who's had intense radiation and chemotherapy knows that the recovery is from the treatment, but so far the scans are clear, and the first 2 years are, the scariest. But if you can see my T-shirt, it doesn't say addicted. It says addicted to hope. Okay. I'm not an addict. And this was a gift last year from a friend. And this is what I wore on my last day of treatment. When you ring that bell, it's and I learned a lot from a lot of people who have been through it or have family members. And what struck me was lay people, people who I don't know at all. They aren't well-known people. They're just people who follow me on Twitter or know me from other things. From people like that reaching out to me to some of the most famous actors and entertainers of our time who have had their battles or have family members, and they would contact me privately and put me in touch with people who help them with holistic treatments. I'm not going to say the names, actually. There's some really big names though. And that was very encouraging because illness hits everybody. Nobody is exempt. And so it's been that was the thing that really kind of surprised me, is the people who have been through it, they get it. And so all up and down the line, people from all walks of life. And again, very famous people who I was surprised they even knew who I was. But the encouragement and the outpouring of help and love and everything has been quite something.
Speaking of the outpouring of help, two of my friends on the Twitterverse, Joe Walsh and Kimberly Johnson, they both collaborated to start a GoFundMe on your behalf, and that thing raised $131,000, which, I mean, that's a huge amount. How much did that help defray the cost of your cancer treatments?
Well, from the get-go, if I wanted to be treated at Johns Hopkins, and a friend got me into Johns Hopkins, you don't just, I was still outpatient, but for daily treatment. So for 6 weeks plus other times, I would not have been able to stay in the Marriott, at the Johns Hopkins Residence Inn, where they have, a kitchen and facilities. And that's where families and patients at the hospital in Baltimore stay.
Mm.
And you can walk to treatment, although there was a hill that gave me problems on some days, on the roughest days, but it was about a 5-minute walk, and I always had somebody staying with me, a friend. So we put a cot, in the room, and so I had people taking care of me, and that would not have been possible if it weren't for the help of people who came in right away. And as was noted on the GoFundMe, I'm not married, so there's no second income to rely on, and everybody's familiar with how Trump and his allies pretty much ruined my livelihood. So
Yeah,
this was a godsend. And then I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. It's been public, but Joe Walsh's wife has she now has her own battle with cancer.
that's right.
So
Yeah,
and she and I've been in touch with her and been encouraging and helpful hints, although everybody's journey is different. Actually, I hate that
that's
word
good.
journey. I'm going to take back the word journey. People say that, share your cancer journey. Journey is backpacking through Europe. Cancer is just a bitch. It's
Yeah,
not a journey.
okay.
It's not fun. People say, "Well, you should, journal and keep notes." It's like when you don't want to do that. I want to just, that's not good. It's never what people think it is. The only thing that about cancer that is what people think it is when you get the news. It is
Mhm.
exactly what you think it would be. It's hard.
I know. I mean, I feel like everybody who's watching this has a connection with cancer one way or another, whether it was they themselves
Mm,
who got that diagnosis, or it was a loved one, a family member, a friend.
mhm.
My mom, God rest her soul, she was not fortunate. So when I see stories like yours, of people who have made it through the woods, I'm hopeful and encouraged. Even my son, he decided to um, become a scientist because he wants to focus on, like, he's seen both of his grandmothers die from cancer. So everybody's touched by this, and so I appreciate your um, I appreciate your being very public with, we won't say, we won't call it a journey, but with this thing, you posted this on Twitter. Can you explain to us what we're looking at here?
That was a few years ago. That was actually something separate, from
Ah,
this yeah, yeah. This was a basal
oh,
cell
I forgot.
carcinoma that I had ignored, that from being that was not, malignant. But
You said it was like
here's
twice the size of a golf ball, right?
yeah, it was on this side, actually, which is why I part my hair on this side now. Yeah, and it had grown little satellites, they called. I'm like, "Great." And
Mm.
you know what it was? Because also, here's the thing, a lot of people who have been through this in illness, when they do a top to bottom review of your health, they find other things. They're like, "Oh, do you know you have you may have thyroid cancer, you have a little nodule." I'm like, "Great,"
Oy.
and they just watched that, and that just popped up on the PET scan. And then they found I now have hypothyroidism. We addressed some sinus issues because that could be related to hypothyroidism, which is long-term infection, and that can cause and sinus infection then can cause your cholesterol to go up. So they just did a top to bottom review. The truth is, I had lived my life. I've always exercised and kept in shape and whatnot. But well into my 50s and then hit 60, I was kind of living like I was in my 20s and 30s in terms of my health. And there was no, you got to take care of things. And, we don't have a lot of family history of this stuff. My parents have certainly had their health problems at their ages, and they're elderly. I thought, I run, I do yoga, I ski, I ride bike, I'm fine,
Yeah.
and that really has nothing to do with it. Um, so I eat better now and take better care of myself. But I think what's common with a lot of people is sometimes it takes getting sick to get healthy.
So, what would your advice to our audience be regarding, diagnosis and, you know,
If there's something that you notice is wrong, go get it checked out. I unfortunately had a primary care physician that was blowing it off for quite some time, and that delayed the diagnosis. And another doctor in the process who was not um, up to par. And so another doctor said, you need to fire your primary care physician.
Yeah.
Took months to do that because by the time we got the diagnosis, I was well into this. And so then we did the top to bottom review. And I have some physical therapy ahead of me that starts next month. But a lot of it was if you have a doctor, and I've had doctors in the past unrelated to this, where um, if it doesn't sound right, if and I think that's very typical of doctors, unfortunately, with female patients. We hear this all the time. They don't take it seriously, and the truth is, I had experienced that in the past, where I
Mhm.
finally had to get a doctor that was listening to me and take care of just like an infection that I had overall that was attacking my joints. And somebody would say, "Well, you have lupus, or you have rheumatoid arthritis." And or the spontaneous nosebleeds or your air conditioning. I'm like, no, spontaneous nosebleeds in the middle of the night is not that. And so it was just an infection. And then we found out that I was allergic to one of the drugs or whatever that they give you for it. But it was something that was relatively easy to remedy. But it took my regular doctor coming back from, this was years ago, by the way, when I still lived in DC. Took
Mhm.
my regular doctor coming back from being out of the country for a few months to say, you have an infection. We're going to give you antibiotics. And the other doctors that I'd seen weren't listening to me. So I think for women in particular, people say, listen to your doctor. You do what they tell you to do. It's like, yes. But if something's wrong and you know it, you have to get it checked out. You have to get it checked out.
So get a second opinion. Get checked out. Get a second opinion and fire those shitty ass doctors if
Yeah.
they're not doing their job.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I would say that.
um,
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit now. I want to cover you. You started America Reads the Mueller Report. Now I remember when Robert Mueller was focused on this thing, and many of us on the left were, just could barely contain ourselves. We are like, it's Mueller time. and,
Yeah. Oh, what
and
a party.
then and then nothing. But so when did you start this? I guess you started America Reads the Mueller Report after it was released, redacted, right?
Right. It was when it was released, and it just felt like it wasn't sinking in. And Bill Barr had gotten up and lied about it. And so it was such important information. I think at that time, I still thought Congress would do something. They decided not to impeach Trump over this. But the fact that there was misinformation out there, I knew that the people that we needed to reach were the people who believed Barr, not the people who were part of the cult, the Trump cult, who simply didn't care and wanted him to get away with it. You needed to reach the people who, if they had accurate information, might go, I better take a closer look at this. And those
Mhm.
are people who are not on Twitter, older, middle age, older, white, watch Fox News, think they're informed, and you need to get them where they live. And if you can't get them on Fox, they're not going to get them on Twitter, maybe Facebook, but they do watch their local television programming. They listen to
Right.
radio. So, I was just one of the efforts out there. And I think a lot of little legit efforts are what are matter more than the big ones that might be problematic. So what we did was I had some of my celebrity friends, Morgan Fairchild, who I've known for years. We used to be on Montel Williams' show together during
Mhm.
election seasons. John Cryer, who I'd gotten to know a little bit online. Oh my God, he's so funny. Our outtakes with him are hilarious. The late, great, wonderful Willie Garson. He contacted me. He heard I was doing this and he said, I want to be a part of this. And then Montel Williams brought in Tom Arnold and we just had a great group, and it was very rewarding. And then we, of course, had to raise the money to produce this. We had our
Mhm.
celebrity readers, and we had to get a good studio, a good crew, and so we're kind of raising money with on the fly for this. And then one day, I get a call. It's a Texas number that I didn't recognize. I answer it. It's Roland Martin, my good friend Roland Martin, and he says, "Cheri, yeah, this is Roland." He says, "You doing this for real? You serious? Like lights, camera, action?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing it." He says, "He's the three magic words. I can help." And because he
Mm.
has such a huge audience, with YouTube, which, it's part of he has access to studios once a month in any of the major cities where they have them. He got us the LA studios, and then my wonderful friend Melissa Jo Peltier, who most of you know on
Yep.
Twitter, she got us a top tier Hollywood cinematographer, director of
Wow.
photography. Yeah, David Chrysanthus. And so we were able to. I'm sorry, James Chrysanthus. So he had shot Chicago, with Renee Zellweger. He had this great crew that always worked with him on, the Ghost Whisperer, and they all came and they loved what we were doing. So we had the free access to the best equipment because of Roland Martin, and the studio because of Roland Martin,
Wow.
and and his staff. I mean, he was just incredible, and he believed in this, and he knew that we were targeting the right audience, and so we had him, and then California law. Oh, and James Chrysanthus' staff, his crew, all cut their rate down to like 200 a day or something, and he volunteered. We were saving thousands of dollars in production, and then by California law, you have to feed people. If they're there more than a certain number of hours, you have to serve a hot meal. You have to have craft food
Mhm.
services. Well, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So when I got the craft food service people, and I got all the food, all the things that go into a production like this, when they found out what we were doing, they said, we're going to give you a discount, our staff discount or something, 10-15%. And then a couple
Right.
days later, I got an email that said, we had a meeting and we're going to donate everything. So we had the free
Oh,
food. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, it was wonderful. And so we went then, and once the money came in, we produced this thing. We did have to pay full price for that guy. And then we produced it, and we started. I'm just going to start buying local TV time in half-hour segments. We had our celebrities reading direct excerpts from the Mueller report.
Mhm.
Most of them were from the summaries. And Montel Williams, as you know, Montel Williams had the longest running daytime talk show in the history of television. So our
Yeah.
audience was familiar with him. And he sort of did an intro, and he said, no politics, no political commentary. See, with this group, with these persuadable voters, you can't be in your face with the negative stuff that turns on our side, that you already have our people.
Mhm.
You're trying to change hearts and minds, and close elections are won or lost in these margins. And I knew that these people were out there that were being misinformed. There's a reason Bill Barr lied to them, Dad. He wanted them to believe that Mueller found nothing. Bill Barr knew that if certain segments of the voting population knew the truth, they would turn against Trump. So he lied to them. Now some don't care that what Trump did. They're going to vote for him anyway. That's the cult. But there's this other group, the soft group, that we could get, and that's what we were going for. So we bought half-hour time slots, like say bracketing in a Wisconsin early morning farm report, so that the farmers that are up early, or bracketing religious programs, or local sports programming, or maybe a Wendy Williams, couple late night news. There's, because you can't buy time during the day, but these half-hour time slots in these markets, and in
Where
battleground
you knew
states,
they were gonna
frankly.
be tuning in.
Yeah, and in battleground states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. We did a little bit of Florida, and we did, yeah, in places where it would make a difference. And so that's
Was there
and
any
that's
way
that's what people have to do. So we did that. I think I put it all on the website where we were airing, and I think we eventually went on just over 100 stations when all was said and done. 100 airings
was
of this half-hour program.
was there any way to gauge the success of your project, to figure out how many hearts and minds did you change with this effort?
Uh, you just kind of know going in. I mean, I've been in this business a long time, so I knew where the persuadable voters were.
Mhm.
I run campaigns. Was doing it at a pretty young age. I was trained pretty heavily in this at a 10-week, boot camp, which that Newsweek called the West Point of politics. And I taught this stuff, political communication strategy, at the master's level at George Washington University at the Graduate School of Political Management. Um, it wasn't hard to figure out. Then when you do your media buy, I was in constant contact with our media buyer, who also took a cut in what he would normally get for his rate. Nobody was in this to get rich by any stretch. This is
Yeah.
just an effort they believed in. And so he would, we would go through what the viewership was, where we wanted to go, what were the available buys, and kind of barter, and see where we could go and what was the best time slots. And that's how you just do your best to hit, where the people are. And look, most people who run congressional campaigns don't even have the budget for the polling and everything. You just have to have smart people who know what they're doing, because you might not have the luxury of having it being proven by polling or something like that. So a lot of it's just common sense.
You used to be a regular commentator
Mhm.
on Fox News, and
And MSNBC and CNN. Yeah, everything.
but I'm specifically on Fox News
Yeah.
because you were a regular there, and then all of a sudden, poof, what
Poof.
happened?
I was banned officially on the day. It was October 2015, and the Washington Post had done an expose on a super PAC that Trump had and lied about. Remember, he was in the primary. There were 15 people, I think, at the
Mhm.
time running the primary. He claimed he was self-funding, that nobody owned him, that he had no super PAC. Well, um, there was an expose. I was not a source for the story. I know who was. It was Roger Stone actually trying to get back at Lewandowski for pushing him out of the campaign. So he had the story planted in the Washington Post, and Sam Nunberg, actually, it was Stone working through Sam Nunberg and a couple of other people. And I knew about this super PAC because when these guys first came at me, it was somebody who was going to work for the Trump super PAC. And Lewandowski had talked about this thing openly in front of me, to the point where I thought, did the rules on this change? Because we should, even though the campaign hasn't officially started, they shouldn't be, people in the campaign should
Mhm.
not be talking about a super PAC. So when I saw that Lewandowski and Trump were lying, and they said there's no super PAC, we're going to sue the Washington Post, and doing the whole thing that those guys did. I did
Mhm.
numbered tweets. I didn't know how to thread them yet at the time, so they were just numbered. And I said, they have a super PAC. They told me all about it. He's not self-funding. And I was immediately canceled on that day by Fox. And
Wow.
that, we later found out, that was when the catfishing of me started. And when the FBI was going through dates and everything, that was the day the catfishing of me began, to get
Hmm.
information about me and, just find out what I was up to. It wasn't romantic catfishing. It was people pretending that they repped big Republican donors who wanted to defeat Trump. Um, so that happened, and
Were
then
you
that
shocked?
same
Were
uh, I remember sitting in my apartment in New York and just this sinking feeling, because at that time it was all happened like within 5 minutes. I was canceled on, and Roger Stone put something on Twitter blaming somebody else, one of the guys he had used, blaming them for the piece and acting like he was defending Trump now. Um,
mm,
and then I had TV on, and Gretchen Carlson's show was on, her midday show, and all of a sudden, without an announcement pre commercial or anything, Bill O'Reilly pops up on her show. Bill O'Reilly doesn't do anybody's show on
mhm.
Fox, especially during the day. He pops up and he's like, "Oh, yeah, there's no super PAC. That's all a big lie. No, Trump doesn't have a super PAC." And I was like, "Oh my God." They aren't just biased. They are out and out lying for Trump and covering for him, and it's only the
Yeah.
primary. And that's what was absolutely stunning to me and sent a chill down my spine, because you always expect the different, okay, CNN was thought of as middle of the road or not. Then you had MSNBC, who was left wing, and Fox was right wing. And
Mhm.
Fox had been problematic for a while with me. I remember a number of years before that, kind of warning my parents, to be a little bit careful with them. And and but this was stunning, that they were now out and out lying for Trump. And that was something that to this day, people are so shocked at what the media does, but they're pretty dirty. And so that was it. That was it for me on Fox. Now, some months later, I accidentally, a booker would call and book me. I'd be like, yeah, sure. And then a few hours later, or I'd put on Twitter that I was going to be on, and then all of a sudden I get canceled on. And one time I did slip through, and I went there. I remember Neil Cavuto, who I'd been on his show forever, and I thought he was one of the good guys. And when I showed up and sat at the table, he just looked shocked that I was
Mm.
even there. But I do know that sometime after that, there was an effort to get me out just one time because they knew they didn't want to be credibly accused of blocking me. So, they have you on one time over the like over the course of the next 6 months after you've been on, a few times a week for years. So my first time on Fox was, my God, soon after they launched. But I think they became problematic. I had a real problem with how they dealt with Tony Snow. And then remember when Alan Combs was kicked off prime time and Hannity got his own
Wow.
show. Yeah. So they had started moving beyond just having a bias. So they were problematic to begin with. So you're asking me. I was stunned because I knew that this was the end of something for me. That actually was sort of promote. I was self-employed single gal, and this was kind of what promoted me. And I knew that something big had just happened. Um, was I?
And
I don't know. Was I shocked? I don't know. I can't really remember, but I mean, I kind of had a problem with Fox anyway. But it was just weird to watch Bill O'Reilly go, hop on Gretchen Carlson's show and lie for Trump.
and then you went toe to toe with he who would be the one.
Yeah, yeah,
You and Trump had gotten into uh, it's more than a beef, I think, because he went on Twitter and basically called you a dummy.
yeah.
And
Well, he can call me whatever he wants, but what he was doing was lying about me. And so when he eventually pretended that I was suing him for calling him that name, that was never it. But again, that's how you have to lie to people. I didn't have Twitter followers then. I had no way to fight back. Lewandowski went on Morning Joe and lied about me. And Morning Joe's producer wouldn't even let me come on and fight it. It was pretty bad.
mhm,
So Trump can call me whatever name he wants, but he was lying, saying I begged him for a job. They came to me, and in fact, I only agreed to have lunch with an old friend who was going to work on the super PAC. And you don't just tell people, oh God, no. And so I was having lunch with him, and he brought along a guy that I'd never heard of before or met before, named Corey Lewandowski, and they were kind of
mhm,
trying to work on me and work on me. And they admitted that they had to sort of ambush people because they couldn't get good people to meet with them. Apparently, Kellyanne had even stood them up because she was going with the Mercer money with Ted Cruz at that time. And
wow, mm,
so they wanted to meet with me again, and then they were like in a real hurry, and I had other things going on, and but I did agree to a second meeting because I didn't have to fly into town like Steve Schmidt did,
mhm.
and I just had to walk a few blocks, and yeah, it's as a consultant, you take meetings. So at that meeting, it was just I mean, Corey Lewandowski was just an asshole. Can I say that on your show?
You can say
He
anything
was
you want. Yeah,
I'd never seen anything like this before. And so, I just wanted to get out of there. I even called my mother when I got down the sidewalk, down to Fifth Avenue, and I was like, "Oh my God." And she says,
yeah.
"Don't burn bridges with your friend, just be nice." So I waited a day or two, and I was like, because that day he had sent me a text saying, "Oh, you did really well. Corey thought he was too hard on you though." And I said, "He's an emotional guy in a big job," trying to diplomatically say, "The guy's an asshole." And so then a
Mhm.
couple of days later, I sent a message saying, "Thanks for thinking of me, but this isn't for me, and I really didn't appreciate the hazing by Lewandowski. Pretty sure you didn't go through that because at that time, I was writing it off to sexism. I didn't know the guy. And I said, you have a great time working on that super PAC." I mean, I have all
Mhm.
these in text and writing, so I could prove that not only did I not beg them for a job, I didn't go to them. I like, yeah, you see, I have the
You had
screenshot.
receipts.
Yeah, but no one cared, and CNN did. So when so first Lewandowski goes on Morning Joe. I'd been on Don Lemon's show the night before, and Kayleigh McEnany was one of the people who was on, and she was now pro-Trump. And we were talking about Trump's self-funding. Now I don't decide what the issues are, and that's when I brought up again, as per published reports, because this is months later, Trump was not self-funding, and I brought up the fact that he had the super PAC, and that night was when Trump defamed me on a tweet. And a,
Yeah.
a few days before that, I think Corey Lewandowski had done it on Morning Joe, and Morning Joe waited. They wouldn't print a retraction. They wouldn't let me go on. And because I was pushing, I was now no longer even on Meet the Press Daily, which I was doing on a regular basis, like on Fridays when Steve Kornacki was taking over. It was like, or maybe Monday or Friday, whenever he took off from whenever, what's his name, Chuck took off. So
Mhm.
now it's like, okay, so I can't stick up for myself. I can't, this is just going to stand. It's like, yeah. So that was that, and I had known Joe for years,
Yeah.
since he was a freshman member of Congress. So this was it's like this is whoa. So now it's months later, and so now I'm on CNN, and that's when Trump defamed me, and Corey Lewandowski had said that, and then a week later, he did it again. And I don't care that he called me a dummy. I didn't sue the guy because he called me a dummy. I sued him because he lied about me, and I could prove
Right.
it. Well, then I find out that CNN didn't care. And that's when I realized, oh, that's because Jeff Zucker had, he was bragging about being Trump's personal booker. He had greenlit The Apprentice for him when they were both at NBC. And so this to me was just, that was hard to know that everybody was that corrupt in the media pushing this guy in the primary. And a senior producer did tell a print reporter sometime later that, yeah, it came from on high to ban me. And that print reporter knows that, and a lot of other details about, the hacking of me, and things that are confirmed, but they're afraid of being sued. So yeah, it was confirmed that Zucker did this, and it was for Trump. And so now, people say, well, Zucker's gone. Won't they bring you back? But, media doesn't like to admit that they did something wrong. And I
Yeah.
kept quiet about it for a long time. And so does this make me a big mouth? I mean, I don't know. It happened. I was on uh, thousands of times, and for many years, like 20 years, and then all of a sudden not for Trump. So
We've
um,
we've all kind of watched over the years. We've watched Trump get a pass from just about everybody, and
yeah.
it's mind boggling, that so many people have given him so much leeway, and it's just not fair, especially to the little guy or the little gal, as you were in this instance.
Well,
But you're
yeah, but
not
it
alone.
goes more than giving a pass. I would say this is aiding and abetting.
Yeah.
We see a lot of this, and a lot of the people who they elevate who should not be elevated, be they political pundits or candidates or people in Trump world. Remember, Jeff Zucker then was paying Corey Lewandowski $500,000 a year, supposedly, to be on CNN after Lewandowski had been a proven liar and putting
Yeah.
reporters in pens. And they do this repeatedly. Kellyanne actually she was laughing about, oh, you're going to get me on the Hatch Act. Well, she had multiple Hatch Act violations. So it used to be for TV pundits, you first had to know your stuff and have an actual political background. That's been out the window for a while. Roger
Mhm.
Ailes pretty much threw that out the window, but then Jeff Zucker sort of started following suit on that front. But if you were caught lying or plagiarizing, um, those that's you no longer have credibility, and no one is owed a spot on TV, certainly. So it just changed so much, and now I think a lot of people just don't know who to believe. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who is legit and who isn't, and that's unfortunate. And the media
It
did that.
isn't.
I
It
blame the
is
media.
indeed, and I do want to cover some more of the battles that you have gotten into, but I
I
need
don't
to
mean
take
to
a
get into battles. I just tell the truth, and that gets me in trouble. And that should tell you all you need to know. Gosh, you know.
but I need to take a very quick break, and
Okay.
I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
And we're back. that's a that's a very quick break. Um, so speaking of the battles, most recently you had gotten into I don't even I don't even want to call this a Twitter beef, but you had an opinion about Joe Rogan, as much of the Twitterverse did, specifically after his super cut of him using the N word came out, and The Rock came out and in defense of him, and he had some words for you. And his tweet here says he added you, said, "Hi Cheri, good morning, it's DJ. You're all over my timeline, so I wanted to share some context with you, so hopefully you're no longer triggered by
Yeah.
headlines you read." I'm guessing the word triggered was where he kind of
Yeah, I'm
crossed,
surprised he
because
didn't
that's
say I was on my period. Yeah.
yeah. So were you caught off guard by getting into it with The Rock, or
Well, first
what
of all,
was
I
your
was surprised that
thinking?
I was all over his timeline. He's got how many millions of followers, but, what was clear to me is that I think he probably didn't know about the multiple use of the N-word by Joe Rogan. That's what it looked like to me, and
Yeah.
so I was letting him know, like, "Dude, you don't wanna be out there, take a beat, you need to have all the information before you go out there defending this guy." Because once you
Mhm.
defend people, you get in so deep, you just dig in, and it certainly wasn't a battle, and I don't think I was rude. I don't maybe I was. It depends how you read tweets. But
Mhm.
whatever. So he got I mean, he really got bombarded with a lot of tweets by a lot of people. And over the next day, yeah, now you put it up
And
there.
then
So
he
then he apologized.
apologized.
And these are not replies to tweets. These are original tweets from him. So
Yeah.
and good for him, and I think he probably had some people around and he was actually at the Olympics during this time when he did this.
Hmm.
Remember he did the opening at the Olympics? So
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and so I think then he before that had responded to Don Winslow too, because Don was saying, You might not know everything." So he admitted then in a tweet to Don Winslow that, yeah, he didn't know about it. So he was doing some appropriate and respectful and very adult cleanup, and more power to him.
That's right, that's right. Now I remember, um, another one of the battles that you'd gotten into, this ties in. I'm saying battle, and I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it is closest to. It feels like it's right. I'm just going to continue to use that. My next question is from one of our viewers, Jonathan Slater. He says, "Your ending with USA Today hits home as I live near Michael Caputo.
Mhm.
Can you define just how bad he is?"
Well, Michael Caputo was caught lying under oath to Congress. He and Roger Stone were lied under oath
Mhm.
to Congress about their contact and communication and meetings with a Russian national who was selling, quote, dirt on Hillary. And Mueller caught them because he had gained access to those communications. And they claim they forgot. They both forgot because, who doesn't meet with Russians?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And Congress decided, Democrats in Congress decided not to refer them to DOJ for indictment. Jeff Sessions in fact, it was one of the members on the committee that privately told me, like, Sessions wasn't going to do anything. Some of the members wanted these guys to be referred, and then they didn't bother. Remember, this was early on when they were letting Trump off the hook for Mueller report and everything. So Democrats play a huge role in where we are now by simply not having the doodads to take these guys on. And then Caputo went out there and he was holding press conference and yelling during his testimony at Congress, "Dan, you ought to hell." And I had to cash in my daughter's college funds to pay for lawyers, although he did manage to keep his Florida vacation home. And so, I'm going after him for that. And he was going after me then, which, by the way, is my appropriate role as a pundit commentator, calling him out for lying to Congress under oath. I think at that time, I don't know if we knew he lied, but yelling at Congress and using his kids. And he started these GoFundMe's to raise money and dragging his daughters out, the spotlight. Oh, their college funds. And so he
Mhm.
started this hashtag bitter, childless, and alone. Me, at least I have kids. I'm like, what? And yeah, yeah, you're showing these things. There was some pretty ugly stuff. And there was one day when my father had been in and out, well, ICU for 18 days. And then he had been in nursing home, and it was touch and go. And my brother had come in from Alaska because we
Mhm.
thought my dad was dying several times. And then my brother went back to Alaska and promptly had a massive heart attack. And we couldn't tell my dad. And so he was in surgery that day. And I wasn't getting information. His wife is from China. And when she's upset, her English isn't that good. So we're communicating through other people who had their phones. And I was one person that could talk to the nurse, but I wasn't getting information. And my mother was with my father, and so we're texting. It was that kind of a day. And my brother gets out of surgery, and again, we're still hiding this from my father. Um, that, you know, my parents had lost we lost my sister 41 years ago. I was, right before her wedding, a few weeks before her wedding, to a drunk driver. So this is all pretty hairy stuff for my family, but for any family, under any circumstances. And I'm seeing
Yeah.
Caputo go off on me with those things that you. And so I started saying, so I was pulling on the fact that he was using his daughters. He was getting money, and I said some
Mhm.
things that were ugly and inappropriate. In context, though, I think some people would say, "Well, you look at what he does." Anyway, he started this huge firestorm. He had the Jack Posobiec bots and trolls just attack me, and I didn't know what was going on because I'm dealing with family issues. And he and JD Gordon had a buddy on the inside at USA Today, an editor, a right wing pal. Um, and so they got him to fire me for it. And and I'm getting these emails from him. And well, here's what happened. Several months before that, I mentioned my email had been hacked, or maybe I didn't mention that. My email was hacked. There was an FBI investigation.
Mhm.
And when I wrote for USA Today, by the way, they came to me to ask me to start writing for them. Um, uh,
USA Today.
yeah, months before that, because they like my tweets. And
Mhm.
so, um, so I had written about the RNC platform language on Ukraine and JD Gordon's role in inserting that pro Putin language, that basically would say that we would not be giving military weapons to Ukraine to help them fight Putin.
Right.
And that was a huge controversy. And so I zeroed in on that because there was no other item in the entire RNC platform that the Trump people got involved in, just that one. And it was for Putin, and we knew it. I wrote about it. JD Gordon had a buddy on the inside at USA Today who I'd never even met or dealt with before, except maybe a couple emails. It wasn't the person I dealt with. And they came to me and they were tracking me down on a Sunday. Did you? Because JD Gordon went to them and said that I should be fired and the piece needed to be pulled because I was paid by Ukraine, that my little PR firm was paid by Ukraine. And
Mm.
so I'm accused of this by this editor at USA Today. And then I said, I've never had a foreign client. And no, Ukraine is not. And I said, where is this coming from? And
Right.
then the other person speaking through the editor said, please don't say anything, please don't go on Twitter, just let it go. And I'm thinking, okay, I've just been accused of this. And I'm thinking, first of all, are you in the habit of asking your political contributors? I didn't work for USA Today. They pay you $200 every other week to write a column. It's not a job. And
Right.
I'm thinking, do you ask everybody else about their client base? And then I instantly contacted the FBI agents who were investigating the hacking of my email. And here's why. Several years before that, I had a software client who couldn't pay me, so he gave me 4.4% of his worthless software company. And then a few years later, he's like, "Gosh, somebody is interested in this. We've been asked to join in a proposal as a subcontractor on a defense contract to do identification verification on devices." And it's for the military for a foreign country, but it's all NDAs, so I can't tell you what it is. Um, but he's all excited about it because this would be very good. It's all in the up and up, and so we're putting together our part and getting other people who could be part of the subcontractor. And we didn't know if it was a U.S. contract or what it was. So we're trying to figure out what you need to do to file with State Department should this come through, and because this would be really great. And then he decided to put in a role for my PR group, because my PR company, my PR firm, so that we could then use that and maybe take the software and use it elsewhere too. And he said, well, you're covered from the NDA. The country was Ukraine. And it was to go in and remember, Putin hacked the military's computers. And so we were going
Cheri,
to.
can I call time out here for a minute? Because I was we ended up all the way in Ukraine, but I kind of wanted
The
to
point is, it showed that JD Gordon had access to my hacked emails. Okay.
uh-huh.
He was using information from my hacked emails. The FBI was very interested in that. And on the day that the guy at USA Today cut me loose, I told him all about that. Well, he didn't tell his editors. He didn't tell his bosses. So a little over a year ago, right when I was finding out that I had cancer, I let the editors know, because I found out he was being promoted to editorial page editor. And so they ended up promoting someone else, and he's no longer at the paper. That's the point of the whole story. These guys had my hacked emails. JD Gordon had
Now,
access to my hacked emails, and when he found out, and when the FBI went after him and he found out what they're investigating, he probably went to the person who gave him that information, and shortly after that, Michael Caputo started paying his legal bills. So yes, it's a long story, which is why people don't know my long story, because there are so many details. But when you're getting into FBI investigations in Ukraine and hacked emails, I'd say that's a pretty big deal. I put as much as possible in my Twitter thread. But that's why this story hasn't come out yet, because there are these details. My
what
emails
I
were
was
hacked, and these guys had access to my hacked emails. Period.
what I was interested though in is
I didn't mean to snap at you, but every detail of this story is important when you're talking about hacked emails and FBI investigations in Ukraine.
I perfectly understand. I also know that I can't hold you hostage here on this show for like 2 hours. As much as I'd like to, I don't know what your schedule is for the day. So um, when I saw this tweet from you directed at Michael Caputo, I was trying to put it in context, right? And I understood that he was attacking you in a very personal way. He's sending you tweets like this, uh, almost like he's insinuating that you should commit suicide, which is a
Yeah,
horrible thing.
yeah.
And I'm focused on this because I deal with trolls on a daily basis. Probably, I don't know. I spend about 2 hours, whether I'm muting them or occasionally I'll engage with them. But I know that they're trying to bait me, right?
Mhm.
They're trying to bait me to get me suspended. It's really that is their goal. They're just saying things to get me to react. This seems to me out of character to you. Do you feel like you crossed the line with this one?
Well, you look at that, it's 12:22 AM. My brother had been in 4 hours of surgery that day, then I had to go be with my father. So, yeah, across the line. But that's where I was at that time. I had 2 immediate family members in hospital beds, a continent apart, um, thinking we're losing them both. Yeah, so that was the context. Yeah.
How is he
Oh,
now?
yeah, it's an ugly tweet, but, it's, and he deleted all of his, but the reason that happened with USA Today is I was not in a position to fight it. Had I been around and even knowing what was going on, I probably could have done something about it, but again, I was, oh, and by the way, I was on a break from writing from them at the time because of my father, and they knew that. So their
Mm.
response was only because they had this guy on the inside doing the favors for his right-wing pals, and we've seen that here and there where you expect there to be right-wing media, but they have little plants inside different newspapers and different media organizations that'll do their bidding, and that's unfortunate. But I think that's a function of Trumpism basically being allowed to proliferate now for so long. Some of us have been fighting this for me almost 7 years now, and we're losing. So Garland may or may not be doing something, but while he's either doing or not doing whatever it is we'd like him to be doing, Rome is burning.
Indeed. Now, do you consider yourself a never Trumper? That's a
Um,
term that came up, with people
yeah.
that were Republican, or previously Republican,
Mm,
people who defy the brand of Trumpism that Donald Trump introduced to the Republican Party and had it mutate into some disgusting version of conservatism. Is
yeah.
that is that
I,
pretty much how you?
I always got called a rhino. Now, when I first started out in politics, that word didn't exist. I worked for, Bob Michael, and, you know, Republicans and Democrats worked together. And at that time, 80% of the American voting public was slightly right of center or slightly left of center. The whole 80% of us were in this reasonable middle. And I could have very easily have worked for a conservative Democrat as a Republican. And that, of course, changed over the years. And but I left the party the day after they nominated Trump. I didn't wait. I was not someone who stayed as a Republican. In my view, the party was dead at that time. Now, based on some of the stories that I've told you, the very long, detailed stories, And again, because there's so many details, they're all important details, but because it's a lengthy story, it's why people don't know my story. Um,
Mhm.
but I knew that the party was dead. I knew that I never wanted to sit at the table. People said, "Why are you leaving now? He's going to lose in the fall. We're all going to come back together, but we got to do this now." And I'm thinking, any of this that's okay with these people. I don't want to work with them again. I can't imagine sitting at a table in a meeting, or trusting their judgment on things. A lot of the things that I went along with for a lot of years that I would not naturally have gone along with as the party got pulled further right, was because you trust the judgment of the people or what they're telling you. And I just knew that I was done. There was no way I could be a part of this again. So I became an independent. And that's been almost 6 years now. I didn't wait. I didn't work for him and then not work for him and then come back. And I didn't, you know, switch back and forth depending on which way the wind was blowing or where my opportunities would be. I just was done. So Never Trump generally refers to people who were still Republicans. So I guess I call myself Never Trump, but I'm not. I'm just
Okay,
not a
so but
Republican.
officially you're independent, right?
Yeah, but I vote
But
blue.
and you
Yeah.
vote blue. Okay, so what is it about what democratic values make give you pause from committing 100% to calling yourself a Democrat? Why not just switch your registration from independent to Democrat? What is it that is
Oh, I
preventing you?
probably will. Yeah, there's nothing preventing me. It's just when this happened and I switched it, I just went and became an independent. I just knew I didn't want to be a Republican. So it
Wow.
wasn't any deep thinking. And
Is there nothing left? Is there nothing left from the Republican Party
mm,
that to ever pull you back in?
no, no. And I'm a anti-corruption justice voter. And I when I saw what happened in my party, I thought, well, okay, the most important thing to me is cleaning up the corruption. I think our democracy depends on it, on getting to the bottom of this and holding people accountable. And so if that means that I don't get my way on some of the policy issues well, guess what? You don't when you're in the minority anywhere. Even you're in the majority, you're supposed to work with the other side. Nobody gets everything they
Yeah.
want. So for me, it's this, and I also look at some policy issues very differently because I see the people on the other side and what they do. So I've always been never thought anybody needed rifles. So I've always kind of been at odds with my party on the gun issue, and called a rhino on on abortion issues, and kind of kept my mouth shut for a long time when people started in certain offices I worked in putting little cartoons and things on your chair when you were away and letting you know
Uh,
that it wasn't yeah, it became less it was starting to become harder to be a Republican anyway if you're a moderate like I am.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm used to not getting my way, and that's fine. But at this point, it's about cleaning things up. It's about cleaning up the corruption, and Democrats are who we have right now.
So you have, in my opinion, you have a lot in common with another never Trumper, Steve Schmidt, who you are kind of. I'm not sure if are you guys are still in a beef, but right,
Look,
what is happening here? What,
um, yeah, there it is. He and the Lincoln Project pocketed tens of millions of dollars that people gave in good faith to help defeat Republicans, and that means electing Democrats. And that's not me saying; it's all as per published reports and their financials. And and I think it's a huge grift, and AOC agrees with me. She calls them a scam pack. And when you look at
Hmm,
the fact that the average successful congressional House campaign cost $2 million, and Democrats lost a net 10 seats in 2020 in a year they were supposed to gain seats to cushion
yeah.
against the expected midterm losses, which the party in power usually gets. So Democrats weren't supposed to lose seats. They were supposed to gain seats, and there
Mhm.
would not be any threat. The midterms would not be a threat right now, if these guys had taken the money. And a senior Democrat strategist said to me recently, he says, these guys, if they had been honest, they could have each paid themselves $1 million, which is a pretty nice payday, done good work, and actually put the ads on TV. These guys ran them on Twitter, maybe did a little bit of TV. And instead they got greedy. And now it matters because it has a direct impact on the Democratic House and Senate majority. So that's what this is about. And then use a large Twitter following to just smear people as a threat, basically saying, if you don't shut up, I'm going to send my people after you and that'll hurt you. And then to lie about me on Twitter. That's very Trumpian. So no, I think that these guys did a great disservice. There's an amazing number of people who will DM me and privately tell me that, including someone initially who was not with them and now is a member of them and initially said, I admire you for speaking out, because I did right away when I saw what this was. And when I initially saw the reports coming out, when they would air an ad, a hard-hitting ad, which is great for the base, by the way, but it doesn't work on persuadable voters. It turns them off.
Yeah.
But it helps gets people to open their wallets. And they didn't take a camera crew out. So these were produced very cheaply, a desktop. And you put it on Twitter, you take the money. And so I'd see these news stories coming out about this ad, but they wouldn't say where the buy was and how much it was. And I'd never seen that before. Bill Kristol's group would say, we put a press release out. We have 800 whatever $1,000 to buy in this state against this senator. And this wasn't happening. And I'd never seen that before. So that was kind of a red flag. And then when the financials came out and then all the news reports came out, it turns out that I was right. So does that put me in a fight or a beef with someone? Well, no, it's grift and corruption. And fine if you still want to give, if you still like these guys, but at least know the truth. And that's how I am with Trump. Let people know the truth and make their own decisions. But if you're simply going to hide the truth and lie to people, you kind of get what you deserve. But I'm sorry, but the Democratic House majority is at stake here. And that money that these guys pocketed for, according, that Steve Schmidt was overheard often saying for his generational wealth, that is obscene. You didn't create a software that everybody wants. You didn't create a product. You don't have a manufacturing company where you're creating a product and creating jobs. You didn't create a drug that's saving lives. You're taking donations intended to elect Democrats and pocketing them.
My concern with the Lincoln Project is some people were asking me about what did I think about the Lincoln Project. And my concern was that after the election, after the 2020 election, they were going to have a whole lot of us on the left, and they had a proven model for, getting donations. But then I thought, you know what? Why can't they also take money from the right as well? And because there are still, I think, people in the Republican Party that are closer to you than they are to like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, for instance. They're people who are like, what the hell is happening to my party? So I thought the whole time that, the Lincoln Party is not really our friend. I know. But I felt like they were doing something useful. And as long as they're being useful and helping us evict Orange Fooleys from the White House, then, more power to them. I just, do you not feel like they are helpful?
I think that having hard negative ads to gin up the base is great, but you got to air them. You got to put them in the right place. But if you're raising that kind of money and you're pocketing that amount of money, you've just pocketed the Democratic House majority and maybe the Senate as well. That's the bottom line. Again, successful House campaign, different with different media markets, but on average costs $2 million. And money does not guarantee a win, but lack of money guarantees you a loss almost always. And so that's how I look at it. And that's why I speak out about it. And people, oh, you're just jealous. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm also not a corrupt grifter. So they attack me. And it's exactly like how MAGA attacked me when I started telling some truths about Trump. But again, those negative ads, you say doing some good. Hard negative ads don't work on persuadable voters. It turns them off. And I know this. I've done this before many years ago when I was a Republican, and I just left the RNC and I was doing some work for one of the ad firms, and they were trying to figure out, how do you deal with this Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky situation? And, how do you target, say, like soccer moms? You don't just go out there with these hard negative ads. So I wrote one and wrote this. It's called "What Do You Tell the Kids?" And I never mentioned Bill Clinton's name. I wrote it first with a couple, and then Tony Marsh and his brilliance made it two soccer moms. And what do you tell the kids? For 7 months he lied. And that was a good one. So all the different firms
Mm.
that were on retainer at the RNCs submit their top ones. They pick several to focus group. You do it or to shoot with stills, and they focus group. And so all these dozens of things, they narrowed it down, and my ad was one of the top three, and they focus group through the roof, and it went to production. So I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and I am
Yeah.
offering that to Democrats. So, and that's what the America Reads a Mueller report was based on. We don't want to get in people's faces and make them defensive. We're just going to read the facts. We're just going to read them these excerpts. No political commentary. And so if you're not taking care of that as well, you're gonna lose people. But again, if you're pocketing the money, it doesn't matter if the ads are right or not, or they're just not being seen by the right people or anybody.
Now, my instinct is usually if someone is alongside me fighting towards a goal, I might hold my fire. I might just pull them to the side and do something private, back channel, DM or whatever. Um, but now that you've explained it, I understand you are calling them out. You are when they say sunlight is the best disinfectant kind of thing. Like you are shining a light that needs to be shown, whatever.
Well,
It
don't you
needs.
think people should give their money to groups or directly to candidates or to legitimate groups? I mean, you want somebody fighting next to you, so somebody gives you a bucket of bullets, and the person fighting next to you is taking half of them and sticking them in their pocket instead of putting them in the gun and shooting the enemy.
Excellent point. Yeah, great analogy. Thank you for that. Although maybe we want to stay away from gun analogies.
We're living in
um,
in terrible, terrible times right now,
Good
and the
Lord.
massacres are just beyond comprehension, and the language of my former party, is almost beyond comprehension, and I just don't think that we can afford to play these games on the side, where people are just trying to make a buck off either side. I think it's just a little bit too scary right now.
So I do have another viewer question. This is from Brooklyn Wifey, who happens to also be my wife. She wants to know, what's your stance on gun control in the wake of the Buffalo shooting? And is gun control, in your opinion, a strong issue for the midterms?
It's going to be a strong issue now. Again, when I was a Republican, I was always, for certain levels of gun control, and that made me unpopular, a rhino. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a huge issue. But you can't separate it from the white supremacy that we now see. There is a direct connection. And that connection has to be made in such a way that it doesn't put current Republican voters on the defensive. You can't say, "How can you do this? How can this is?" I think the message needs to be, "This isn't your daddy's Republican Party.
Hmm.
We're not talking about hunting. We're talking about something different." And so Democrats need to, instead of funding and cheering on those things that we see on Twitter that get the base riled up, you have to think we have to talk to people where they live and in a way that they can understand and appreciate what you're saying. Um, and if you just call them stupid white supremacists because maybe they voted for Trump last time or they voted Republican, you're going to lose them. So what you need to do is um, not in your face, but say, this isn't the party that you were loyal to. We're not going to slam you for being a Republican before, but this is different. And you have to do that with these voters, with persuadable voters, because some of them can be swayed. And as I said, close elections are won or lost in those margins. And those are the margins that I don't think we're really playing on in Twitter when people are just trying to raise money and get followers.
Okay, but Cheri, you said you can't separate the white supremacy from the gun control issue. Now, you've seen as well as I've seen that there is an extreme sensitivity whenever you say racism or white supremacy. they act like you just stabbed them in the eye. For instance, down in Florida, they've passed laws that say you can't, and I don't think it's just Florida, but definitely I know for a fact Florida, you can't teach certain subjects that make
Mhm.
students uncomfortable. And this is, the discussion of racism or slavery or
Yeah.
whatever. So how do you broach this topic with people on the right and make any headway without them getting all caught up and defensive and running away and saying, "Hey, you call me racist, you're
Mm.
racist."
You you
What do you
you
do?
show them. You don't call them the name, you show them. You show them the clips of, Tucker Carlson and then what happened. You have to do it, um, again, not in your face, not screaming at them, you just have to show it to them. And that's what I've done in my career. I just told you about the ad that I wrote, that focus group to the group through the roof, and that's what they decided to spend the money on in air. You
So
show
through
them. It's
ads.
like you say, "Don't take my word for it. Here it is." And that's what I do. When you say I get in these fights, it's like I don't. Here's the article. Here's what they're saying. These are the numbers. It's not me saying it. I'm not calling anybody. I mean, I'm calling it grifter or scam pack, but this is it. So you don't shift the focus. You make me the focus and call me the name, instead of looking at the information. And that's what they do. Whether it's Caputo, whether it's Trump, whether it's Schmidt or any. You get it a lot from MAGA. So people have the information and they can decide for themselves. But there's just, how do you not make the connection between the recent shootings and this? I mean, if people really want to defend this, but in terms of CRT, that's really, critical race theory. That's really disturbing to say white children are made to feel guilty. It's like, why? I don't feel guilty about racism. I didn't own slaves.
Mm,
I'm not pro slavery. I don't feel, I
right.
mean, I should say I don't feel good about racism. I don't feel guilty about slavery. I didn't own slaves. But you know what? I'm an adult now in this society. We're in our time now where it's our job to decide what kind of a society we want to be and what we want to fight for. So if I'm not speaking out, if
That's
I'm
so
not doing
sensible
whatever I
what you
can,
just said.
if I'm not speaking out, if I'm not doing what I can, whatever my limitations are, then I'm guilty. Then I have something to
Yeah,
feel guilty about.
there
And
you
I
go.
think
Yeah.
that children, school children should be given that, should be afforded that same right to decide, okay, when I'm an adult and it's my turn to be in charge of society, what do I want to do in my little corner of the world to change things? And so nobody's making anybody feel guilty. If you didn't do it, you're not guilty. You are guilty if you don't do what you can now. And I think there has to be a way to convey that to people.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I thank you for what you said. That I mean, I don't know why it's so easy for you to say, and it makes so much goddamn sense. I don't know why people on the right have weaponized like that whole great replacement theory, for
Yeah.
instance, right? Is getting people riled up and thinking that they're going to be replaced by people from Mexico or Guatemala or from Africa or from where brown people are, you know, they're going to come in and take your vote away and replace you in this society.
What do they think they're going to do? Take them to some, factory and remove their brains or something and replace? I mean, the whole idea of this on its face, like what the Stepford wives, they go to a factory, they take their brains out and they come back as robots. I don't even understand the
Oh
concept
no,
of
no. So
replacement theory.
they've
Where
weaved they've
they're going to move into your
woven this
house.
in with the whole immigration thing, right?
Yeah.
So they're setting up the argument that Democrats want open borders and we want like a humongous influx of brown people to come in and get the right to vote and then overwhelm their numbers, making white people a minority here in America, and then thereby taking away their power and whatever. That's
Yeah,
the
you know what that does though? That sort of negates, their position of being against illegal immigration. We're for legal immigration, but we're against illegal immigration. Because if it was just about the illegality of it, which good points can be made. I mean, I
Mhm.
certainly think that we shouldn't have illegal anything. We should make it easier for people to become legal, be legal
Yeah.
here. But but we know what they're talking about because they do attach race to it.
Hmm.
So that sort of is a big red flag that Republicans really don't care. It's not about the illegality of it; it's about the color of the people, which means
Okay, I'm sorry. I have one more viewer question. It's from our friend Punxsutawney Mo. And he's saying, as a former Republican, do you still believe what was previously the biggest Republican lie until the new big lie, that a trickle down approach giving tax breaks to the rich and corporate interests creates jobs and economic growth?
it's one of those things that when it's explained, it makes sense back then, but it's been proven not to. So no. The other thing is when Ronald Reagan talked about talked about capitalism and heralded it as something good. Capitalism, in those days, the CEO or the big boss made approximately 30 times what their average worker did. They might have lived in the nicest house in town and took the nicest vacations, and now they now make 300 times more with the average worker, and they don't even live in the same towns. They have their private islands and private planes. So again, when I said this is not your daddy's Republican Party anymore, this is not Ronald Reagan's capitalism. And so I think you also have to have a completely different conversation. First of all, what he tried failed, and it definitely could. I mean, well, right now, I would say we have, if we taxed our gazillionaires, billionaires, we could take care of a lot of problems. But also, we've also seen the incredible amount of power they have as basically American oligarchs, where they control our lives. And they can do us in with the tweet, or just with anything, with the stuff that Musk is talking about, or just what Trump can do. So it's just not even a conversation that you can have in these days to talk about what Reagan was talking about, because today's capitalism is not even remotely what we had at that time. But the trickle down failed. So they tried it, it failed. Why do we need to even have the discussion?
Cheri, I think you have wonderful insights. And I'm just wondering, do you think the Democratic Party would would have more success if they were to enlist people like you, people who have lived the Republican life, who have understood the Republican mentality? You think it would make sense for them to bring you on board as, like, advisors in
Mhm.
how to win over like-minded Republican voters?
Well, I think that, yeah, they think that I would be a good person to have on board, because of
Has
that, and
anyone
also
contacted you?
and also just because I have a good track record with this. I've done it, at very senior levels. I was a senior level, staffer, with the Contract with America, where I was in meetings in Newt's office probably 3, 4 times a week. And, so I know stuff, and I know how it works, and I know some of the roots of this, and I remember seeing the beginning of this evangelical, scary right wing stuff at that time, saying they got way too much influence, and how my dealings with them. So I do have insight into it. Um, but I don't know who makes those decisions, or
Nobody's reached out to you.
no. Mm.
That's stupid. That is ridiculous. It's just, I don't understand, man. If I was in charge of the Democratic Party, boy, I tell you, we'd be doing some different shit.
Yeah, I have some recommendations. I would have a completely different way of dealing with Trumpism and not ignoring the Biden accomplishments. But one thing
Oh,
that
sorry. You just reminded me. Um, when you talk about the Biden accomplishments, I came across some tweets here that, if you weren't completely out of the Republican Party before, you are now,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you have these tweets
yeah.
where you're basically you're sympathetic to Biden, President Biden. In this one, you say he lost a wife and baby daughter in a car accident. He's been a single parent, lost his adult son to cancer, looked after his own mother, who lived in a small carriage house on his property until her death. He's naturally attuned to the needs of American families. He's lived it.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
there's this one here. Do you make less than 400K per year? Great. Then you are part of the 91.5% of Americans who will not be taxed more under Biden. Stop letting the RNC tell you that you will be taxed more. And I see these things and I'm like, you don't
Someone
sound
should be
like
paying me.
you don't sound like a Republican at all.
Well, somebody should be paying me to message this stuff for them. Yeah, you're right. Look, when I was a Republican, I remember being on CNN and talking about it was when Obama was going to put Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court, and Mitch McConnell was no. And so I'm on there saying, I'm sorry, but this is the president of the United States with a whole nother year left in his term. He should be able to have whomever he nominate whoever he wants if you don't have the votes to defeat it, but you don't just block it from the floor. Oh my God, I got so much blowback from Republicans, but I've always been like this. I piss off everybody. I've always been the
I like
rhino.
it.
It's just I think that we need people who are less about party and more about country, and then whichever political party listens to us, great. That's who we're going to go with. But I'm done being loyal to any party, and right now I'm angry with Democrats for letting Trump off the hook for the Mueller report. They should have impeached him. I think it would have said, well, he's learned his lesson. No, he didn't. He was emboldened. He knew then.
Well, that was Susan
He took
Collins. She
measure
said
of them
that.
right then and there, and knew what was going on when they decided not to do that. And when they did not refer Michael Caputo and Roger Stone to DOJ for indictment for lying under oath to Congress. This is either when they start letting them off the hook, and I think we're seeing that now. He knows. I don't think that Trump will ever go to prison. I mean, he's been let off the hook his entire life. We've seen the Southern District of New York and the DA. I mean, this has been going on for decades, and
It's
now that he's
maddening.
been in the national public eye all these years with all of his crimes, and still nothing has happened, and we still think that Merrick Garland is going to come through and save the day as the statute of limitations run out after Trump crime after Trump crime after Trump crime. The
There's
other
some
side has
things
won.
though. I still have hope with the thing that's going on in Georgia,
Yeah.
right? In Fulton County, that's a good one. I think Letitia James has still got something in play, right?
It's not going to
Although
put him
that
in
is that the
prison.
civil. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he's going to pay a fine.
we'll
He
see.
doesn't care.
We'll see. I am as kind of frustrated with Merrick Garland and his seeming reluctance to do something, but I'm gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait and see what
Well,
happens.
don't you
We have
think that
no
I
choice, really.
here I think the Democrats J6 committee needs to throw everything at it. I think they need to refer everybody to for indictment. Congress does, even separate from the J6 committee for any crime, refer them to DOJ for indictment. I think that J6 committee needs to have everybody in, including Jenny Thomas, and then put everything, lay it all at Merrick Garland's feet. And then if he does nothing, or he cherry picks a little bit too lightly, then Democrats have every right to very publicly as well as privately marching down Pennsylvania Avenue and say, Mr. President, you need to replace your AG, and they should be
Mm.
public about it. Put it all on Garland, and then it's on Biden to decide what to do with Garland. None of this, well, we're on this side and we're going to wait. No, enough is enough. He can be replaced. He can be fired for cause. And then people say, well, that'll blow all the investigations. You know what? It means if there's something going on at DOJ that's underway that could eventually come, you keep working on it. And a new AG, which would be obviously just a temporary, the person, because you're not going to go through, you're not going to go through confirmation. They won't.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. So you put in someone to get the job done, and they can just speed things up. What Merrick Garland is doing. Look, what's the average serving time of an AG anyway? A couple of years. You can go.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
4 years. Full term.
There doesn't, no, very few do, but there doesn't need to be.
How long did Holder serve?
I don't know. What about Sessions? You look at Sessions. But even if there's something going on that people, it's all secret, they're just going to spring it all at the same time, there's no leaks, that can still go on. But there's too many things that are not happening, crimes where it's been years. And it could be a new AG that at least understands that the public needs to be able to have faith in our institutions. And also it would stop the criming, So I think he needs to go. I think the damage has already been done by the delays. And I think, yeah. And so we need an acting AG who's going to go in there and get it done. But Democrats can run on, we did everything, we did our part, and then lay it right at Garland's feet. And then if he doesn't act, then they have every reason to say, we need someone new.
Well, you've heard it right here, folks. Cheri Jacobus is calling for the ouster of Merrick Garland.
Replacement.
Okay. Now, I know we've gone a little long, and I apologize for
Okay.
not doing a good time management on this, but we are now at that part of the show, which is my absolute all-time favorite part of the show. This is the guessing game part. So how this works is that there are 3 different guessing game categories. First, I have name that TV show theme song, or we have name that Billy Joel song, or we have I should have known that, which is a fun little trivia thing with facts that you swear to God you know, but maybe you don't know.
I'm going to go with TV theme song.
Ah.
Even though I don't watch a lot of TV now, I used to as a kid. So.
Okay. Well, I think if you used to watch a lot of TV back in the day, then you may be in luck, because many of these are kind of on the old side.
Oh, well, so am I. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. And if you guess correctly, you do get the cowbell.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And if you guess wrong, you get.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So here's the first one. Da-da-da-da-da. Just sit right back and you hear it.
Gilligan's Island.
Good job. You have guessed correctly. We were looking.
Can I do one for you? Do I get to do one for you? Okay.
Sure. You will be the first.
Okay.
I know that. That's I Dream of Jeannie.
Thank you.
And
you didn't expect to get it right back, did you?
Well, you've just blown my last.
You were going to do that one?
I had that in the queue for you. Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. But anyway, good on the first one. Here's the next one. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun. Blah, blah, blah. Your dreams were
Welcome back, Cotter.
Oh!
Yeah.
Holy shit. That was fast. I didn't even get past the first line in the chorus, in the lyrics here. Well done. Welcome back, Cotter. That's what we were looking for. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can stump you with one of these. Here's the next one. Dun 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 dun.
Green Acres. She is my life. Goodbye, city life. You know how I spent my childhood.
Well, you were clearly watching TV around the same time I was watching TV here. Yeah, I grew up with these shows here. Good one. Good on you.
They're great.
And let's okay. Here's the next one. You take the good, you take the bad, you take the both, and there you have the
facts
blah,
of
blah,
life.
blah.
Yeah, the facts of life. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Are these too easy?
I think it depends on your generation, you know? I mean, if you were to have something that's on today, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't know.
Okay. Maybe this one. Here we go. Dum ba-dum boom 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 ba-dum boom 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 ba-dum boom 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 diddle diddle boom 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 ba-dum boom 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 ba-dum boom boom boom.
Sanford Son?
No, that's a good guess because it is instrumental, but no. We were looking for Doom, doom, doom,
Okay.
doom, 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 doom,
Should have
doom,
known that.
doom. Okay. I give you a chance to redeem yourself here with this next tune. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da,
Taxi.
da, da, da,
Mary Tyler Moore. Why do I not know this? I know it, but I don't know it.
Well, we were looking for
Oh,
Nash.
yeah. Oh, I knew it. I knew it was familiar. I knew it. I just couldn't. Oh gosh.
Okay, I
This
did
is gonna
stump you
bug
on
me
that
all day
one.
now.
Okay, are you ready for the next one?
Sure.
Down, no, 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 no. Down, no, 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 no. So no one told you life was gonna be
Friends.
this
Yeah.
way.
Friends.
Very good, very good. You redeemed yourself
Thank
there.
you. Thank
We've got one more.
you. Oh
One
gosh.
more. This one is for all the marbles. You ready?
Okay.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
And
Dun dun dun
smokers.
dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. You're close. Dun 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 dun.
I don't.
I'll give you a hint. Michael Landon,
Oh, ow! I don't know.
Lorne
No,
Green.
I know the show. I just forget the name. I'm sorry. I said Gunsmoke. It's one of those westerny kind of things. Yeah.
Okay, we were looking
Oh,
for
banana. There you go. All right.
Bonanza.
You
Okay.
got me. You got me. I'm
Well,
demoralized.
that you know what? The next one would have been I Dream of Jeannie. So you kind of made it up
Okay.
with asking me. I'm telling you, the audience loves that. They love that. You are the first and only person to ask me to quiz me musically. So well done there.
I was
Well
so
played.
sure you wouldn't get it because there's no words to it. Yeah, it was
Oh no,
simple.
it's impossible. I don't think anybody has watched more TV than me. Nobody.
Okay.
Um, okay, so last but not least, really quickly, I want to run you through something I call my favorite things, which is basically there's no wrong answers to this. It's your favorite things, things that you like. Okay,
Hmm.
it's rapid fire. Rapid fire. Favorite kind of music.
70s rock.
Ooh, good one. Damn, I should have had that in the guessing game. Favorite TV show to binge watch.
Sex in the City.
Mm, good one. Good one. Favorite supermarket.
Trader Joe's.
Good one. You're giving some good answers here. Favorite fast food chain.
Uh, Dunkin' Donuts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that counts. Um, favorite living politician.
Hmm. I'm going to say Katie Porter.
Oh, good one. Good one.
Yeah. We need
Oh,
more of
she's
her.
fantastic. She's
We need a
fantastic.
lot more of her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Clone her.
Uh, favorite Twitter account.
Hmm. What's the dog one? There's a dog one, and I forget the name of it.
Hmm.
It's a dog account, yeah, and I can't remember the name of it.
I couldn't tell you.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's
The dog
I
account.
yeah, it's a dog, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Pizza or burgers?
Hmm. Pizza.
Bagel or donut?
What's on the bagel?
Whatever.
If I can put whatever I want on the bagel, then I'll say bagel.
Okay. You could have also said, I'm going to put a donut on the bagel. And then
Well, I have to eat healthier these days, so I
if
said
you could
Dunkin'
live,
Donuts was my favorite fast food, but that yeah, so
yeah, yeah. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
mm. Lucerne, Switzerland.
Hmm. Good one. Have you been there before?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it was the most beautiful place in the world. Yeah,
Oh, it's
Or
fantastic.
Carmel, California, also beautiful.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Any particular charities or foundations or organizations that are close to your heart or that you support?
Animal rescue organizations. There's a local one that I support that I raised money for a big trap spay neuter about 30 cats. So I help out with that.
You remember the name of it?
Per Haven, Per
Per
Haven,
Haven?
yes, Per Haven,
Hang on.
Purrhaven.
Let me get that.
And I raised money on Twitter actually for an
P-U-R-R.
emergency a few years ago. Yeah, and I'm also
Haven.com.
partial. Perhaven dot I don't know if they're .com or not.
I'm throwing it up there just in case.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. And I'm also partial to veterans groups. So I helped out with veterans skiers, disabled veteran skiers. And that
hmm.
was incredible to see people out there skiing better than most people who are not disabled. So being on the mountain with them was good.
You're a skier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just been here with Cheri Jacobus, who is a skier above all else, and
Animal lover skier. Yeah.
she is a bagel eating TV addict who is also a former Republican, soon to be Democrat. She's going to change her. When are you going to change that? Are you going to
I
change
should
that
I
registration
think
now?
you've urged me. I think you remind me. I because like I said, when I became an independent, it was just they nominated Trump. I'm out of this party, but I want to get involved in primaries. So I need to become a Democrat. I'm going to do that real soon. I'll get that
Do
done.
it now.
Yeah, I'm going
Do
to
it
get that done.
now.
You've talked me into it.
Okay, Cheri, thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us on Storytime with BDD. Hold tight for me. I just want to say bon voyage to my viewers, but don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another wonderful episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. And if you have not yet gotten your shot, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and get the shot. Um, if you are so inclined, please wear a mask, keep your social distance 6 feet or better, and have a lovely, relaxing evening and week. I will see you next week, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.